eOne. Joining us today, we have Rod O'Connor, who is the product specialist over at eOne. So a huge thank you to him for being here today. A couple of things to go over before we get started. This will be recorded and I'll be sending it out to all of you. And if you have any questions, please type them out in the chat windows and I will read them aloud throughout the presentation. So with that, I will hand things over to you, Rod.
Thank you very much, and hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about to integrate or not to integrate. And as it indicates on the screen right here, that really shouldn't be a question for you. And to help us prove that, we're going to go through, let me get this working, there we go through the following talking points. So first we're going to talk about what do we mean by integration. We're going to go through a quick business scenario. This is just one that we see quite often that will help illustrate some of our points, but there are hundreds of other similar situations. We're going to go through our two key products that we'd like to use to address that business scenario. We will go through a demo. I promise this is not all PowerPoint for the next hour. And questions is in our talking points. It always has to be last, but I don't want you to wait. So as indicated earlier, please just throw your questions into the chat. We'll make sure they get answered as quickly as possible. I like to make sure that we get those answered while I'm talking as opposed to waiting till the end, because I usually forget what I said. Okay, so what do we mean by integration? You would think that that would be a really simple question or a really simple answer. We all know what integration means, right? The problem is I've been doing this for not that long, 20 years or so. And what I've seen software do is go from best of breed products that we would integrate together using really complex code, and it was really difficult and expensive. Then we moved on to ERP solutions that included a little bit of everything, enough of everything, and eventually what those ERPs didn't include got covered by add-ons or ISV solutions, so products like ours. Okay. Eventually what happened is we got to a hybrid where we had ERP and we had other external solutions because integration actually became easier. So we had a little bit of best of breed, a little bit of ERP, and everything was kind of brought together. And then finally where we are now with everything being online and people are so used to the app experience, we're all the way back around to best of breed single function applications being introduced into businesses and then integrated again through products like ours. Okay, so when we talk about integration, when eOne's talking about integration, we really see integration as four main categories. Okay, so system extension would be integration as defined by a software developer. Okay, that's where we want to change or enhance the way a solution works. The way I like to describe it is basically down on that last bullet point there. It's designed to enable a user to interact with their data. Okay, so a new field for them to enter a piece of information or a new piece of business logic to change what gets done with that information. Okay, the next category is process automation, and that's where we try to automate non-value add steps. Okay, so stuff where people are currently doing it, but it doesn't really add a lot of value to have people doing it. Okay, and what I like to say is that's designed to replace user interaction. One of my favorite examples, I'm trying to create, I create an employee in my accounting system or in my payroll system. We also need to set up that employee as a vendor because we pay them expense checks through the accounts payable process as opposed to through payroll. Rather than have the HR clerk send an email to the accounts payable clerk saying, please set up this employee as a vendor, why not just have the system actually create the vendor for you? Okay, so that's process automation. There's also data migration. Generally, that's a one-time thing. Okay, so it's when I'm moving from one accounting system to another, or I'm implementing a new payroll system, or I'm implementing a third-party logistics solution, where I need to do kind of a mass dump of starter data, primer data. Okay, that's data migration. So I like to say that that's designed to recreate user interaction as data that already exists. We just need to put it somewhere else. Okay, and finally is data display or data sharing. Okay, and what we mean by this is we need to prove to somebody who's not in our system that something happened. We need to share that data with them. My favorite example again is salespeople. Salespeople are working in a CRM. They need to know what's going on with their customers. So they need to know, for example, if the invoices are getting paid. Now, do they need a copy of the payment to be in their CRM system? No, they just need to see that it's being paid. Okay, so that's designed to communicate user interaction. So those are our four kind of broad spectrum of integration. Now, when we're talking about this particular presentation, we're really focusing on these three. Okay, we're not showing you a product today where we're going to alter how your accounting system works. Every system has their own way of doing that. Okay, we're going to cover process automation, data migration, and data display. And you can actually break that down into two even broader categories. Do we need to move the data, or do we need to share the data? Okay. So let's take a look at our common business scenario. This happens in a lot of places, and you can replace a lot of these parts with other objects, just depending on what your two sides of the coin are. So in our case, we've got an ERP and we've got a CRM. I don't care what the ERP is. I don't care what the CRM is. It could be Business Central or GP or Nav, whatever it is on the left-hand side. On the right, it could be CRM. It could be Dynamics 365 CRM. It could be Salesforce. It could be Act, whatever it is that you're using over there. Okay. There are pieces of data that have to exist and work together in both systems. For example, we've got an account and a customer. A change to one needs to be reflected in the other system because the account gets used in all the transactions on the CRM side. On the ERP side, the customer gets used in all the transactions. This is master data and it needs to line up with each other. Okay. Now CRM's got a bunch of opportunities listed against the account. Hopefully, if your sales team is overworked and overburdened, there's a whole lot of opportunities out there per account. Those opportunities don't necessarily need to come over to the ERP, okay? Because what do accountants care about opportunities? There's no money in them. Now, hopefully, at least one of those opportunities becomes an order. So we close it out, we close it as one. We may create an order in the CRM side, or we may just close the opportunity. However that happens, it has to end up as a sales order over on the ERP side because somebody has to ship against that. Okay, or produce against it, or provide the services that are on the order. I don't care what you're selling, you have to do something with every order. Okay, eventually we're going to have a shipment or a fulfillment or a service ticket or whatever it is that fulfills that sales order. Okay, but again, salespeople don't necessarily care about, they don't need a record of every single shipment necessarily. It doesn't impact their day-to-day sales cycle. Okay, invoices might. So when my shipments become an invoice and those invoices need to come over to the sales side, maybe I'm creating some type of sales reporting on them, maybe I'm not, okay? Finally, I get a payment. Now, what ends up happening after the fact, I always end up getting someone on the ERP side says, you know what, I really need to see the opportunities because when I'm making credit decisions about these customers or when I'm planning my manufacturing, I like to see what's in the pipeline. Okay, over on the CRM side, I'd really like to know if this order has been shipped or if it's being picked or whatever, because my customers are always calling me and asking me what's going on with this order. Okay, same with the payment status. I mentioned earlier, salespeople always like to know whether or not we're getting paid. Okay, and it's important. If I'm about to go in and talk to this customer, I should know whether or not they're paying us. Okay, and I shouldn't have to phone somebody on the accounting side to ask. Then invariably what happens is somebody says, hey, yeah, we've got this other solution, the shipping system. And you know what? Everybody wants to know what's happening through FedEx, right? So can you import the FedEx data into my ERP? Can you import that FedEx data to my CRM? I need to communicate it to my customer when they call. Okay, this is a really common scenario. And it's super oversimplified in case you're looking at it. Okay, so to meet this type of business scenario, eOne Solutions has two different products on the market, both of them being flagship products. Okay, so the first one is SmartConnect. It's been around for a while. SmartConnect is really involved in helping you with that process automation and that initial data move. Okay, so I forget what I called it earlier. Don't worry about it. On the PopDoc side, it's a real-time reporting tool. We will get into some details on both of these, don't worry. It's a real-time reporting tool that can pull data from multiple platforms and present it through multiple platforms. Okay, it's a really cool user query tool. For the GP people in the room, think of PopDoc as smart lists on steroids. Okay, like serious big horse steroids. Okay, so to break that down to our slide from earlier, okay, SmartConnect is our move the data tool. PopDoc is our share the data tool. Okay, so let's talk real quick about SmartConnect. One of my favorite taglines about it is that one right there, handle complex integration without code. So like I said, we're looking at moving data from somewhere to somewhere. Okay, I love this infographic here because it really describes what SmartConnect is in a nutshell. Okay, so at the top and the bottom, you've got data sources and data destinations, and you should be noticing that they look basically the same. Okay, what we like to say is you should be able to draw a line from any of those top connectors down to the bottom and then back up again. Okay, you can go anywhere to anywhere. You should see some really common names, names you're interested in, for example, GP, Nav, Business Central's over here, CRM, Salesforce, lots of out-of-the-box connectors that we can read from and write to and take advantage of the logic within those systems. Okay, but what I do like to point out to people is the reason we can say from anywhere to anywhere with SmartConnect is a combination of database ODBC and web services. So ODBC means we can connect to any of your on-prem data sources that use an ODBC connection, which is pretty much everything. Okay, so we can pull data from your MySQL or your Oracle database or your whatever. Okay, so that's our on-premise version of from anywhere. With web services, a lot of your cloud products out there today, all of these apps, they're growing like crazy. Most of them are providing some form of API, okay, or a programmer's interface. Basically, what that means is if they're using a REST connection or a SOAP connection, we should be able to connect to them through SmartConnect, okay? One of my favorite examples is there was one called Teamwork that I was working with a while ago, and we would track projects in there, track billable time against those projects, and import that billable time from Teamwork into our accounting system, which was Business Central. We would push the invoice data from Business Central back into Teamwork so that the Teamwork customers could see that data. Okay, so the ability to do that was not because SmartConnect had a connection to Teamwork, but because they had a good REST API that we used our web services set up to connect to. Okay, so from anywhere to anywhere, our triggers, lots of ways that maps can get triggered in a lot of our data sources and our data destinations. We can actually set up real-time triggers. GP is one of them, CRM is another. We also have the ability to track changes on data. So if you don't need it, you know to run right as soon as the user clicks on save. Maybe you just update your data every hour. We can track what's changed in that past hour against your data. Okay. You can also run manually either from Excel or from SmartConnect directly. And we do have a scheduler as well. So you can run it, you know, every 5 minutes, every hour, every week, every day, whatever you need it to do. Okay. Finally is our transformations. I won't go through all of those in detail, but basically what that means is your data source almost never matches exactly your data destination. Okay, there's some type of transformation you have to make along the way. For my GP users, you guys probably know about the currency symbols. The GP uses the Z-US dollar sign. That doesn't get used in any other system anywhere. So something like a translation under the transform there would allow you to say, whenever I see Z-US dollar sign, convert it to USD so that I can use it in any of my other systems. And I can do that without code. Okay, so that's our broad overview of SmartConnect. Next is PopDoc, okay? Real-time reporting, actionable tasks. You guys are gonna see this in action in a couple minutes. It's a really hard one to describe in advance without you actually seeing it in action, okay? My favorite piece of PopDoc is the embeddable widgets. What that means is I can take a PopDoc report. So we have a portal online that you can see PopDoc in, and it works and it's great, it's wonderful. But the most important piece is if I'm working in CRM and I need to see reports against my Zendesk or against my ERP, or reports that come from some shipping solution somewhere, wherever my data is, I don't have to leave CRM. I can embed that report inside CRM and see all of that data from all of those other systems. Okay, so embeddable widgets are important. It is one interface to do your reporting from any systems. You can actually line up data between two systems into one single report. Okay, custom reporting, it's real time. Every time you click on refresh, it's just like a refreshable Excel report. It goes back to the data source and pulls your data again. Okay, you can also do scheduled exception reporting. So I can set up a schedule and it will send me a copy of my report. Okay, so let's go back to our scenario here. If you guys remember all of this data, there were times where I needed the data to populate a report, and there were times where I needed the data to actually use it in further actions within my system. Okay, so using the colors from before, okay, all of those lighter blue ones, those are my PopDocs. Okay, I can create a report inside CRM that's reading all of my shipment data from the ERP and presenting that to the users. Okay, all of those dark blue ones would be SmartConnect. So whenever I update my customer, it goes back and updates my account, vice versa. All right. So going all the way back to our types of integration, on the process automation side, we definitely see SmartConnect as the tool for you to use. That's our move the data tool. And I don't necessarily mean to move it from one system to another even. You know, that example where I was creating from an employee record to a vendor record, that's inside GP, or that's inside Business Central, or that's inside whatever accounting solution I'm working in, okay? I can be going from one system to the same system. Data migration. So one of the biggest questions we get asked, every consultant gets asked, is what do I do with the history? You know, I've been using QuickBooks for the past 5 years. I've been using GP for 15 years, and I'm moving to something else. What do I do with all that history? Okay. People's inclination is they think they need to move the data. So they think they need SmartConnect and move that history. I have a call later today to talk about trying to move 15 years worth of history from one accounting system to another. That's a bad idea, okay? A better idea is to leave your old accounting system in place and build a PopDoc report that pulls that data together with your new system. So do I need sales data for a customer? Absolutely. Do I need to see all of the history for that customer? For sure. Do I need that data to be in my new accounting system? No. With PopDoc, I can show all of my sales from my new system, and I can show all of my sales from my old system on one report. And now I've got total history without having had to recreate that history in my new system. Okay. There are elements in data migration that do need to be moved across. For example, your actual customer records, your items, your GL accounts, all of those are part of the data that needs to physically move. And that's where SmartConnect comes in there. So on data migration, both PopDoc and SmartConnect play key roles. Okay, on the data sharing, for the most part, we see PopDoc being that tool. Okay, and then in cases where you do physically need the data, not only to share it, but also to operate against it. For example, the invoices you may have seen, or you may have caught that I said, sometimes we'll move the invoices from the accounting system to the CRM, sometimes we won't. If I need that data to come across the CRM so I can operate a calculation on commission, for example, then I'll physically move it because that data is needed to be used in a process. But if it's just so that the salespeople can figure out what has this customer bought in the past, why would I build a complex integration? Why not just build a PopDoc report, embed the widget inside CRM, and show them that data so that they can analyze it? Okay, so I've beaten that one to death. Let's move on to our demo. Okay, now you guys can actually participate in this demo if you really want to. Okay, we're going to go to demo.eone. Well, no, we're not. We're going to go to the other one. So you're going to go to bit.ly/sc1 demo. Okay, so that's bit.ly/sc1 demo. going to bring you into a screen that looks very much like this one. In fact, it should look exactly like this one. And don't worry, you're not being added to a list. We're just trying to have a spot that we can enter some data in. Okay, so I'm a good guy here, and the company name can be Let Me Buy That. I don't think we need a capital in there. All right, so I'm a good guy, would really like a unicycle and, you know what, a couple of flat tires. Why not? So we'll buy a couple of flat tires and a unicycle, and we will submit. Now what's happening here, and the reason I want to show you this, imagine this could be any data source. Okay, this is just a quick form where I'm entering in what I would like to purchase. In your case, it could be you're standing at a conference table and you're collecting names through some app, or you've got a spreadsheet full of data that's coming from your third-party logistics provider. Whatever your data source is, here we've got a real-time process that's watching this website and saying whenever something gets entered, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. Okay, so SmartConnect is in the behind, and it is creating an account, creating a customer. It's also creating an invoice for the product that the products that they just ordered, which we can ship against. All right, so let's take a look at that. First, over here, actually, let's take a look at our sales activity first. So here we are in CRM. We're going to go down to our accounts. And we're going to take a look at all of our accounts created today. You can see here we've got a couple of accounts. We've got K1 Tools here. We Mean It is one that I did earlier. Let Me Buy That. So let's take a look at K1 Tools. Okay, so under K1 Tools, we don't have a ton of information. Okay, we do have a contact down here if we drill through. So here's our contact, Michelle. So Michelle did great entering this in. Now, what you should notice is we don't have any address information for Michelle. Michelle didn't enter in any actual invoice information or address information. So let's go ahead and set Michelle up as a customer. And this is just our business rules. Okay, we didn't have address information coming in through our form. You might, so you might populate that as part of your address, as part of your data collection. For us, we're going to put Michelle on any street. Okay, Michelle's going to live in any town. Okay, and any state. Can you see where this is going, guys? All right, 99999. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save those changes. Okay, now, if you guys remember back to my slide, what I'm doing here is I'm making sure my data is maintained evenly between my two systems. So I have a customer here. I've entered an address through my CRM because I, as the salesperson, have spoken to that customer. Okay, I've called them, I've said, thank you for your order. By the way, where can we send it? Here's our address information. I've identified that they're a customer and not a competitor. Let's save this data. Now, in some companies, I would then have to email Betty, the order clerk, and say, hey, Betty, here's this order number. Here's the address that you have to put on it. But instead, what I've got here, I can go to my customers, there you go, Business Central, and I'm going to search up K1 Tools. Okay, the first thing you should notice is they do exist, and we have one ongoing sales invoice for them. Okay, now I'm showing Business Central today for this piece of the demo. That's not something that you need to worry about. Okay, this could be GP, this could be NetSuite, this could be whatever the accounting system is that you're currently working. Okay, and if you notice here, Michelle now has an address under K1 Tools in any street, just the same as we set up. Okay, and if we take a look at our ongoing sales invoices, what you'll see is we've got sales invoice here, number 107737. I can drill into that and show you that Michelle ordered some flat tires. Okay, in fact, one flat tire. I'm not sure what Michelle is going to do with only one tire unless she also already owns a motorcycle, or sorry, a unicycle. It's coming up on spring, I'm thinking motorcycles. If she already owns a unicycle, I guess one flat tire will do her, but that's our order. Okay, now let's come back to our CRM, because what I want to point out to you is over here on the the right-hand side, I'm going to click on refresh. This is a PopDoc widget. This is a report that is reading directly from my accounting system and saying, here's sales invoice 107737. I can show some details for it. And if I wanted to, I could see what's on that. Okay, so if I was a salesperson who just needed information from my accounting system, I don't need to request a big complex integration from my IT department. I can simply grab a PopDoc widget and embed it in my CRM. Okay, so what we've seen so far, we've seen data moving around. We saw data get created in our accounting system. We saw data get created in our CRM system. Both of that data is kept in line. When we update a customer, it updates our accounting system. When we update our customer to CRM, it updates our accounting system accordingly. Okay, now what we're seeing is a case where we're viewing data from somewhere else within our system we work in. So I'm a salesperson. I need to see invoices. I don't need the invoices to be in CRM to be able to see them. Now I'm going to pop over here to PopDoc, the PopDoc tab. This is a different way of embedding the same widgets. Okay. Now, when I click on this select list in this widget, okay, notice here, I've got a bunch of different systems I could be pulling data from. I've got some NetSuite sales information, Salesforce. I don't know why I'm showing Salesforce inside of my Dynamics CRM, but sometimes companies have more than one CRM. Zendesk is one that I like to show. Zendesk is our ticketing solution for support in this demo. So we're going to go to our Zendesk tickets widget, simply because this is data from another system that exists that I can interact with from this system. Okay, so let's take a look at how these reports work. First and foremost, maybe I care most about priority or status. I'm actually going to, let's group this based on priority. Now you can see I've got some highs, some lows, some normals, and some urgents. Well, what's under urgent? Okay, so I actually have two tickets here that are listed under urgent. One is open and one is new. Let's take a look at what this has by way of information. So I'm going to click on show details. Okay, oops, it expanded there. Drink cart has no drinks. Does sound urgent. Let's take a look at our details for our comments. Okay, nothing's been done on it yet. It's an open ticket, but there's no comments. So let's go ahead. You know what? We're going to add a comment. We are demoing in Utah. The cart is fine. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to add that comment. Now, notice what I'm doing here. I am actually interacting with a ticket from CRM that is in Zendesk. Okay, I'm adding a comment this way. I can actually change the status if I wanted to, okay, or change the priority. So you know what? I said the drinks are fine. I'm going to make this normal, and I'm going to go ahead and say okay. Okay. So now, if I hide my details, I'm going to come back down to my normal priority, and I should be able to find my drink cart. Okay, so that's going to be there. It's going to be updated. I have interacted. Now, you guys saw earlier, I grouped based on priority. Maybe I wanted to actually filter on priority instead. Okay, so I can click here to add a filter. I can choose what are my priorities, and I want to select all of my normals. Okay, so I'm filtering my data, I'm grouping my data, I'm interacting with my data, and all of this is within CRM for data that's in a different system. Okay, I showed my details down here. Now, details, if you think in terms of your sales invoice, details could include your shipping data. Okay, or details could include the lines, or they could include the history of the ticket. In our case, this ticket is including only comments as my my details, okay? But details can be literally anything related to these tickets, okay? If I'm not seeing the columns I would need to see, actually, you know what, I'm showing you the wrong tab here. From here, I should be showing you some sales lines, but let's do that actually. Let's go to our sales invoice lines because I do want to show you a summary. While this is loading, are there any questions in the queue? So we'll just take a second. All right, I'm going to go ahead and group by item number here just because that's how I want to see my sales data. And notice here I've got my quantities are all summarized and nice and neat, but it doesn't tell me how much dollars I got. If I click on show columns up here, I can find my line amount because these are sales lines. Okay, here's my line amount. I can add that selected column. It's going to refresh my report. And it's going to have now a summary of not only the quantity, but also the dollar value of the quantities within those. And I can add any of these columns. I could have added 6 or 7 columns if I wanted to. I could also remove a column. Okay, so if the column list isn't what I want it to be, I can play with that data and really interact with it. So you can see here, I've got my line amounts, I'm all good. Okay, if I wanted to expand all of these groups at the same time, I've got my group up here, I can expand everything. And now it's showing me all of the sales details under each. I can see my unicycles are doing well. I've sold 1,843 unicycles, and it's a good chunk of money for my business. Okay. If I'm happy with this report and I know I'm going to want to come back to it again and again and again, I can click up here to favorites. I can give that a name, and I can save that. Okay, so now next time I come in here, I can just open up that one report. I don't have to go through my filtering and grouping and sorting and adding columns anymore. I just select my favorite and it's already set. Okay, I do want to go quickly back to Business Central. I just want to show you real quick what the PopDoc widget looks like here, and then we're going to take a look at GP. All right, when I come back to my main menu inside of Business Central, you're going to see that I have a PopDoc drop-down list across my top menu. Okay, when I go to PopDoc, now I've got all the same widgets that I've been able to show you before. And we're not going to go into super detail on some of these, but I just want to show you, for example, here's my Zendesk tickets that I started to show you already. I can go back to that same Zendesk tickets widget. You can see it's loading all that same data. The look and the feel, the features, exactly the same. Okay, I can still go ahead and filter based on my priority. Okay, and I can just take a look at my urgents again, click on save, and it's going to refresh my report. Okay, notice here my drink card isn't there anymore because we changed its status. It's not urgent anymore. The drinks are normal. Okay, so all of my grouping, all of my sorting is still available to me so that I can work with my data the same way that I did inside of my CRM. Okay, now I also want to show you inside of GP. So let's take a real quick look at what PopDoc looks like inside GP, and then we will come back to our PowerPoint because that will be towards the end. Okay, so here's my Dynamics GP environment. You can see here I've got a couple different ways. First of all, I've got the PopDoc widget the exact same way that I had inside before. This one is set, it's a customer's widget. So as my defaults, I have to actually choose a company for it to work. Okay, so here's Fabricam, here's all of my customers for Fabricam. Okay, now one thing I haven't shown you yet is the ability to have go-tos. Okay, when I right-clicked on any of these features, I guess I did when I showed you how to update statuses and stuff, but within GP, I can have a go-to. Okay, so I can get from my PopDoc report over to my address maintenance. I can get from that PopDoc report to a listing of, you know, customer transactions or whatever. Very similar to Smart List and look and feel, except the data doesn't have to be from GP, okay, which is a big departure. So I've got my Dynamics 365 CE, so I can get my accounts and my contacts from CRM. I can get to my exact same Zendesk tickets, okay? Again, my widget can interact the exact same way. When my customers understand how to interact with the PopDoc report, it doesn't matter what system they're in to use that report, it's going to look and feel the same way. I've got my drag and drops, I've got my refresh and my filters and my list and everything else. I've got all the same go-tos by dropping down that I had before, okay? But wait, there's more. If I go to my customer, so let's pull up Aaron Fitz. Under additional, this is where I'm used to seeing things like extender windows or links out to smart lists, stuff like that. But let's take a look at, for example, my sales transactions. This is going to pop me out to a PopDoc report that's pulling sales transactions only for Aaron Fitz. Okay, and again, I've got all my grouping and such available with me, so I can, filter it down to invoices. I can group it based on document type, whatever it is I need to group and sort my data on. I can add and remove columns just like I can with Smart List. Okay, but again, I got there from my customer maintenance window, and this PopDoc report is limited to data from that window. Okay. I can also have, for example, this is not a great example from a data perspective, but it is from a layout. So I have a single record associated with this customer. So this might be, maybe I've got information in my Stripe solution that I want to show on the customer record. Okay, I can do that using PopDoc, PopDoc to read from Stripe and attaching a widget to my customer window. Okay, or the company record from Zendesk, or all the opportunities in CRM. All of those things are possible directly from this window. So if I'm the credit manager and I'm coming in here, I have access not only to my sales transactions, but also to any open opportunities for that customer, as well as outstanding support tickets. All the information from all of my different systems are here on my customer maintenance window. I never had to leave the accounting solution. Okay, so we've talked today about moving data around. We've talked today about showing data from one spot in another spot. Okay, both of these products, we've really just scratched the surface of what each can do. There are full length, I honestly do full hour demos on both of those products at various times. So do dig into these products if either one of them interests you. We have lots of videos on our YouTube, but I'm going to pop back to our PowerPoint for now. Okay. And we'll come back where we were. So the summary of the demo that you've just seen is you're empowering your users to build and manage fully integrated multi-platform processes. So your process is no longer restricted to whatever system you're working in. You don't have to create those big funky workbooks, Excel workbooks that bring data together from different systems. We can have that in real time. Okay, so all of these processes require little to no code. So there's no code on the PopDoc side. On the SmartConnect side, you can choose to use code or no code. That's your choice. I've seen very complex integrations happen with no code. You can use data from anywhere. You can either move it or present it anywhere else. The process can be as complex as it needs to be. It is robust, repeatable, reusable, fully documented, and auditable is something that we haven't listed there. Okay. Basically, we write the code so your users don't have to. with that, we have made it to our question slide, and we haven't had any questions yet. Now would be an awesome time to throw those into the queue. Now, if you do have questions about anything you've seen here today, you could reach back to TM Group. I know your representatives there have all kinds of really good information at the fingertips. Or you could reach back directly if it's something you've heard me say and you want me to clarify. Rod O'Connor at eOneSolutions.com, and also my counterpart, Partner Development Manager, who works very closely with TM1 or TM Group, Michelle. And
Thanks, Rod. We don't have any questions at the moment, but do you have any FAQs for us that we could go over while people type some in?
Well, one of the most common, I think we've kind of touched on a lot of what we commonly get asked. That was kind of our goal. But one thing that I just want to point out is there's never a point where your user should have to be working in 3, 4, 5 different systems per day. And you should never have to build that one workbook that exists in every company. Whoever's on this call today can point to that one workbook in their company where, you know, Jane sits down every Wednesday and pulls together 3 or 4 different reports to update this one big workbook that gets used in 3 or 4 different ways. Some of those ways Jane isn't even aware of. You know, and it's a big process to get that workbook done. That shouldn't be needed anymore. Between PopDoc and SmartConnect, you should be able to get the data into the different systems to the people who need it, when they need it, as soon as it's ready to go. Okay, without that half day that Jane currently spends working on that workbook.
Thanks, Rod. And with that, I think we can wrap things up because I don't see any more questions. So thank you so much for coming on here today and presenting.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone else for listening. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone, and stay healthy.